As you all know by now, Gold and Black Radio has also teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. When you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet. Offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 and over only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that can expire in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Welcome in to another edition of Gold and Black Radio. I'm Derek Schultz. I've magically just teleported my headphones right to my head, right to my giant head from the read. See, I'm wearing the same shirt and everything. Presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Thank you to our new friends at BetMGM as well. And thanks so much for coming on to the show. It's game week. Finally, we get to talk football here on Gold and Black Radio. I mean, we have been talking football all summer, right? But we get to talk about like football because it's here. It's happening. Purdue and Ball State to kick off the season at Ross-Ade Stadium coming up on Saturday. I know our football gurus and Tom Dienhart and Dub Jellison have been very, very busy. They joined Alan for the Saturday simulcast. They've been on Gold and Black Radio, the Tuesday edition of the show that I've hosted the last couple of times. I decided let's give them a little bit of a break here. We're going to be hitting them up all season long. Let's go to Brian Neubert instead, who is besides being a basketball knower, is a football knower too, even though he's kind of like all of us. He's going to be learning some names and faces as we go because this is a roster that is basically completely turned over from 2024. So we'll talk to Brian here in a couple of minutes. Just his overall thoughts on the season, the quarterback situation, Barry Odom, Purdue's process, and kind of how they got here. We'll hit on all of those things with Brian and also fit in some hoop stuff because this is actually an official visit weekend in basketball as well for some 2026 prospects. But first, we want to let you know about all our terrific local partners and sponsors that make Gold and Black Radio possible, including Purdue Federal Credit Union, a proud partner of Purdue Athletics and the official credit card for Purdue fans. Boiler Up, East End Grill and Ripple and Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street, the perfect place for your next event. The Whitaker Inn, this Midwestern oasis, is perfect for a relaxing staycation or weekend getaway. Escape from the ordinary at the Whitaker Inn. And the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research. The Purdue Institute for Cancer Research has a history of innovation and one goal for the future: defeat cancer. Purdue brings together world-class Boilermaker scientists from across the university, conducting cutting-edge research that uncovers new ways to prevent, diagnose, and treat cancer. With your support, cancer research saves lives. Join the fight and donate to the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research today. Let's go on and welcome goldenblack.com columnist, basketball knower, football knower, Yankees baseball knower, Brian Neubert, who joins us now. Blanket disclaimer, as I kind of mentioned, we got 82 new players on this Purdue roster to kind of learn and grow with. So it really is absolutely impossible to know what exactly Purdue football will be this year. But do you have any early signs of optimism, Brian, that this program can at least get back on track just from what you've been able to gather over the past couple of weeks and or months?
Yeah, a quick word first off about our favorite Midwestern oasis at the Whitaker Inn. Get the if they have it on the menu, get the summer chicken parm. It was unbelievable last week when my wife and I went there in our first night out as empty nesters.
And you're a Jersey native, so if you're vouching for the chicken parm, that means something.
Yeah, but it's a very different take on chicken parmesan. So it is worth the experience. It was excellent. All right. With that said, as I continue to panic, trying to remind myself who's coming in for Purdue basketball this weekend. You mentioned it, and I realized I forgot. Now I will answer your question. I think there's reason for optimism in the unknown. I mean, I think, what Purdue's got like 90 new guys or something like that, and they've got a new coaching staff. More importantly, they've got a coaching staff that has done this before in this situation. They are conditioned to do this because they did it 2 years in a row at UNLV where they brought in, 50 new guys or however many it was, and won enough in 2 years to, be one of the hottest coaches on the market this past hiring cycle, and to Purdue's benefit. So I think all things are possible when you don't know any different. And I think that, Purdue has an opportunity here to hit the ground running with some early success. And I think early success is really, really important when you go into these meat grinder schedules. Last season, we shouldn't even speak of last season anymore. It has nothing to do with anything. That's not just coach speak. That is the reality. Almost everyone who contributed to 1-11 last year is gone. And the ones who return, it wasn't really their fault. But that team, their season fell apart against Notre Dame. It just that when they gave up, when they were down, whatever they were down at halftime, that season was over. Oregon State was much the same way. That was a game that really kind of put them off on the wrong foot. I'll go back to Jeff Brom's days when you lose that game at Nevada. That was a season-turning loss right out of the gate. When you have opportunities to have early success, even if they are low-calorie wins, like Ball State and Southern Illinois would be, should Purdue get those wins, wins are wins, and Purdue will take every win they can get right now. And I think there is reason for optimism, just in the sense that you have a coaching staff that, again, has done this before, but will also kind of seemingly emphasize the right things. Purdue just needs to be solid. They just need to stop being this gaff-laden, undisciplined football organization that they've been, not just under Ryan Walters, but think of what Jeff Brom would have done at Purdue if his team could tackle, if his team didn't get called for horrible personal fouls at the wrong time. Things like that. It's got to be a situation where you just get the competence first. Now, the bar is extremely low, so it should be easy to exceed. Now, I think that last year can't be the bar. What has to be the bar has to be what you aspire to be in the Big Ten. It always starts with beating your peers. The Northwesterns, the Illinois, the Minnesotas, the Indianas, even if they had their one-off season last year that makes them look unbeatable on paper. And I don't mean to disrespect them, that they might be able to build on that and sustain it. I don't know. But the middle of the Big Ten is your comfort zone. It's what you have to get to before you can, start thinking even bigger than that. That's where kind of October comes in. Purdue's got USC coming in at the end of September, game 3, I believe. That could be a winnable game for all we know. But then October is where things get the opportunity, becomes a little apparent, because you've got 4 straight games against eye-level teams. I'm still putting Illinois there. Illinois had a really good year last year, but Illinois essentially lost to Purdue on their home field last year. Had they called that fumble late in the fourth quarter, Purdue wins that game. And I'm giving Purdue credit for that Purdue didn't officially get. But I think Purdue was competitive in that game last year, and I don't see why they can't, be really competitive against them again this year. And again, all of these teams, it's so unpredictable because they're all so different and whatnot. But I think that Purdue brought in some talent these past few months. It's going to be up to the coaching staff to get to know that talent, put that talent in the correct positions, to be successful, which success and lack of success sometimes is as much on the coaches and schemes as it is on the actual players. So talent only takes you so far. But I think if they can just if these players are just good enough, not great, but just good enough, and Purdue has a competent sideline this year that, puts together relevant, effective schemes and more discipline and a more fundamentally sound product, I don't see why Purdue can't, win half its games or something like that. Where Purdue's been here the last couple months, if you get 4 or 5 wins, you're off and running. That's they should throw a parade for that after what Purdue, experienced last season and during the COVID year. Purdue's been at the absolute bottom a couple of times here in the last decade, and that I'm sure has made people antsy for a winner. Now you're asking a lot of your fans to come out and kind of do it again, do the whole restart thing again, but I think there's a pretty good chance Purdue's going to give them something captivating, to start the season off, if not a little bit unfilling in terms of the caliber of win Purdue might be able to get here these first 2 weeks.
Yeah, heck, 4-8. I would sign up for that right now. If they were able to do something like that and be competitive. But not to derail the show, but you mentioned, you talked about Ball State and Southern Illinois being high calorie or low calorie. Would they be high calorie instead because it's like fast food and bad for you and easy to fill up on? And then like Oregon would be low calorie because they're harder to beat and it's like a salad. I don't know, like just something to think about.
Yeah, no, I just think there's not a lot of protein.
Okay.
In Ball State and in Southern Illinois, there are empty calories, lots of sugar.
Empty calories. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I think that works better. Yeah,
I probably didn't articulate that very well. I'm not at my most articulate at this particular moment, nor am I and I'm very rarely at that level. But I think that what I mean by Ball State and Southern Illinois, it's just empty calorie wins, being like, they won, but how much does it matter? Because those are games you are supposed to win. And it's shocking when you don't win those games. Now, Purdue has lost to people like Ball State before. I mean, Purdue lost to Eastern Michigan at home.
Northern Illinois, I remember that one year, even though that Northern Illinois team went to a BCS Bowl, if I'm not mistaken, right?
And Purdue would tell you that coming back from Oregon the week before is what led to that, which was peak laundering of the story, because Purdue wasn't very well coached that year and was not prepared for that game. And but Purdue has lost games like these before. Now, whether they can lose these games, I don't know, because we don't know enough about Purdue. We don't know how ready to run these transfers are going to be, how they're going to fit in, how much these coaches even know about these guys at this point after only practicing. Everyone's learning as they go here. I really like the expression, we're building the plane while we're flying it.
Yeah.
And I think everyone in college football nowadays in September is going to be doing just that. So you should expect surprises. You should expect week one surprises even, because I don't know how some of these teams prepare for some of these opening opponents especially when you have a new coach. You have very little to scout. You can watch their coordinators wherever they were before. You can watch the head coach wherever he was before. You can watch the quarterback wherever he was before. But outside of that, you got to go watch video on like 50 different schools to pick out the individuals that you will be facing as a collective unit in a few days. And that's out of context, because the systems will be different. The plays will be different. The coaching will be different. It's a really, really difficult thing nowadays. And I think the era of week one stunning decisions or outcomes is probably upon us. I think it's always kind of been the case, just because of the unknown of off seasons and things like that. But I think nowadays you have no idea what to expect from any of these teams.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're wrong about that. I mean, even from the Ball State side, what are you going to do? You're going to watch Butler tape from last year, I guess. I mean, new coach, and a lot of that roster's turned over because there was a coaching change, just like what Purdue had. I found this interesting, Brian, and I don't think you can do this with every team, because like, let's take, the teams that have been, the Colts are a good example, like looking for a quarterback. Like they've tried to go the young route, that hasn't worked. They've tried to go on the vet route, that hasn't worked. Like nothing that they've done has worked. But I didn't find Barry Odom to be the most exciting hire, but he's a guy that's been around and knows what he's doing, and he won't be learning on the job. And if you really look at Purdue in their last 35 years, which for all intents and purposes is the modern history of Purdue football, and the guys that they've hired, the guys that were learning on the job, so the guys that had zero or very little FCS head coaching experience, Jim Coletto, Danny Hope, Daryl Hazel, Ryan Walters, those were the guys that weren't successful. Brom and Tiller, now there's only two out of the bunch, but those are the guys that were successful. And you may say, well, Tiller was at Wyoming. What are you talking about? Yeah, but still, he had like Division I, FCS level coaching experience. He had been around the block a little bit. Does that make a difference in your eyes? Just the fact that, at least with Odom, even if there's, I don't know, a lower ceiling or you're not as excited about the hire, at least this is a guy that I think you maybe have an idea of what the floor is.
Yes. I think that was kind of what I alluded to earlier when I said if Purdue can just get back to being solid, that's a great start. And I think Barry Odom oozes solid. I think that's kind of what he is. He's a salt of the earth type of defensive-minded coach, a guy who's going to be discipline-oriented, who's going to be inclined to coach physical play, value special teams, value generating turnovers and not committing turnovers, all the stuff that, is so important in football games, but you really have to emphasize to fix. And I think, for as much success as Jeff Brom had at Purdue, he was kind of a, transactional recruiter who just put a couple of really exciting players on the field at all times and sort of got by that way, but didn't really build up the fundamental stuff at the bottom level, the player development element of it. And you saw that cost Purdue a lot of games, tackling, penalties, turnovers, things like that. And then, Ryan Walters wasn't, I don't know how I should put this. People think Ryan Walters is an idiot because of the outcomes. Ryan Walters wasn't an idiot. I don't think Ryan Walters had the wisdom at this stage of his coaching career to be successful. I think he got too much too fast. And I just don't think he was ready with the necessary experience to run an organization, to run a program. I think from an X's and O's standpoint, from a recruiting standpoint, I think he was more than capable of being a head coach. And he might be a good head coach maybe one day, but I just think too much came his way too fast. He didn't do a good job with his staff. He didn't do a good job with the money he did have to spend. People would tell you he didn't have a ton of money. That is correct. Purdue was never going to go out and outspend anyone in NIL, but you also have to look at what did you spend your money on. And I think Purdue was an easy mark in the transfer market. And he bought a lot of magic beans with the NIL money he did have. And I think a more experienced, more seasoned guy with a little bit more wisdom, who's been humbled before, I think speaks to kind of what Purdue needs in this moment. It needs a steady hand. It needs a square jaw. I don't know what that means, but it just kind of came to mind today, kind of looking at Barry Odom at his press conference. He's that sort of, salt of the earth looking guy. And I think he coaches like he just looks like a normal guy. Not a lot of frills, not a lot of bells and whistles, but substance. And Purdue needs substance right now. And I think that it's hard nowadays to vet the guys you're bringing in the portal because it all happens so fast. But when you have a guy who's done this before, who knows how to coach up newcomers and get guys to play together in a very short period of time, that experience is absolutely vital. And I think that he didn't necessarily have to go out and find guys who fit what he wants to do at Purdue. He can tweak what he wants to do at Purdue to the guys he went and got. And he does have experience doing that. And the wisdom that comes from his career, working under a lot of very good coaches, getting fired at Missouri. And keep in mind, getting fired in the SEC is not necessarily failure. It is written into everyone's contracts. Like, you will be fired at some point. He did a good job at Missouri. He had success. He has won at a high level. UNLV obviously validated him in a lot of ways if that was necessary. He had a lot of success as a coordinator at Arkansas between that. And he is a proven guy. And when I say proven guy, I don't mean this force of nature that's going to come in here and just wave a magic wand and transform this place into Alabama. I mean, he's a proven guy in terms of he knows what he's doing, and he will operate with substance. And I think in this moment, in the context of this point in Purdue's football history, substance and just solidity, exhibiting the properties of a solid, is what this program and this organization need more than anything right now. And I think Barry Odom is very much qualified to provide that.
Yeah, I mean, the house burnt down, right? So you got to get somebody in here that's going to build you a kitchen and a bedroom to sleep in. You worry about the swimming pool and the billiard room, later on somewhere down the line, the bells and whistles. Purdue just needs to have the house again, to make the worst analogy ever, if we're going to do that on this show, which I'm good at doing. Let's talk about the roster, and I don't know if you can even give him credit for going out and getting this guy, even though I guess he technically did, or this guy chose to come back, but one of the few holdovers from last year's roster, even though obviously it's a little weird to call him a holdover because he spent the spring with somebody else, is Ryan Brown, who ended up winning the starting quarterback job, which was no surprise. I think the secret had long been out that he was the front runner there. And maybe he was the pick all along the second that he came back from Chapel Hill. What's your outlook for him, Brian? Can he be more than just, I talk about not being super excited by Barry Odom. I still think that there's like a pathway to success for Barry Odom. To me, Ryan Brown wasn't very highly he screams backup Big Ten quarterback to me. But can he be more than that? Because I know the coaching staff talks about his leadership ability, and he clearly does have some skills that he brings to the table on the field.
Well, I think you saw what he was capable of at Illinois last year. As I said before, Purdue ostensibly won that game. But Purdue will not go into any games this year with their play caller and their head coach having the other team's defensive playbook because he wrote it. I think that is very important context to keep in mind when it comes to the success Ryan Brown had last year, without taking credit away from him. Obviously, he was a shot in the arm for that program. He gave them energy when there was no energy. He made plays with his feet, which, Purdue didn't get a lot of last year otherwise. I think Ryan Brown's success this year depends on, has as much to do with Barry Odom, Josh Henson, Devin Mockabee as it does with Ryan Brown himself. I don't know if Ryan Brown is the guy you'd pick first in your fantasy draft if you just needed a guy to make a 5-step drop and make a throw on third down. But if they build a game plan around his ability to run the ball, and if they build a game plan that generates a lot of easy completions and enough throws that can keep defenses off balance to let Devin Mockabee kind of carry some responsibility, I don't see why he can't be good enough. I think the thing with Ryan Brown too is that his experience at Purdue has nothing to do with anything, because the system's different. All the receivers, save for like George Burren, who's hurt and barely played when Ryan Brown was on the field last year, and obviously Devin Mockabee, everyone's different. So taking Ryan Brown's season last year as anything more than like batting practice for a baseball player, just an exhibition of what he can do skill-wise, is really not applicable context. I think that, he went to North Carolina. I think a lot of teams are bringing in quarterbacks for extravagant tryouts in the spring. And, it happened at Purdue. The one kid, Coulson, transferred after spring ball, after things weren't going to work out for him there. And I think that things weren't going to work out at North Carolina for Ryan Brown in terms of being the starting quarterback. So he wanted an opportunity, and what better place to come back than the place that he probably didn't even move out of his apartment. So he will definitely know where Chipotle is. Outside of that, I'm not sure there's really any relevant experience he can apply to his second go around at Purdue, but it's up to the coaches and it's up to the supporting cast to make him successful, as much as it is him. That he obviously is the guy who bears the most responsibility for his own performance, but it is just absolutely paramount for coaches to put their quarterbacks and all their players really in positions to be successful. I think Purdue knows that better than anyone, because I think Hudson Card was an organizational failure by that last coaching staff. I think they broke that kid. They had a good quarterback. They had an opportunity to, win a couple of games to start off the Ryan Walters era at Purdue with their handpicked quarterback, who was a talented guy, but they just broke him. And that was on Graham Harrell, that was on Ryan Walters, that was on everybody. But I think it's up to Barry Odom and Josh Henson and the like, Darren Hinshaw, to do the opposite for Ryan Brown now. He is their guy. It was a little troubling to me anyway, as a nonpartisan observer, that all the guys that went out and found in the portal in the spring obviously failed, because when you go out and get a transfer for spring ball, you want one of those guys to establish themselves. Obviously, none of them did. The competition, at least publicly, bled into training camp, and you would have liked to have gotten your guy right away. But the last time Purdue got their guy right away, it was Hudson Card. As I said before, the coaching staff failed him. So, perhaps having an open competition into training camp will bear different results. But it's up to the coaches to help him be successful.
Is it important to stick with somebody as long as they can too? We had discussions on this show about the fact that Purdue's, I think David Blau was the last one to start the entire season. And before that, I think you have to go back to maybe Joey Elliott. So we're talking about, in the last 15, whatever years, it's been, 2 or even 3 guys playing.
Yeah. It's been kind of a common denominator of Purdue that, death taxes quarterback drama, whether it's been injuries, whether it's been performance. It's just been this constant gong show going on with Purdue quarterbacks, and you'd love to have one guy, start to finish, and you'd love for that guy to be a good player and a winning player. But it's just, I guess it's easier said than done. Barry Odom keeps mentioning the possibility of having to play 2 quarterbacks. I don't know if he's specifically saying because you worry about injury, or he's talking about the rotation deal that never seems to work for anyone. But they are going to have to get multiple guys ready to play. And I do think you need to give Ryan Brown a fair chance here. You need to give him a really meaningful opportunity to validate your decision to go with him to start the season. But you also have to win. You have to win these games. You have to win these first 2 games. You have to win every game. You have to prepare to win every game. And it's hard to say, keep starting Ryan Brown if he's not performing just because he's the guy you picked. But at the same time, you really don't want to get in that vicious cycle of possession to possession. Okay, who's warming up? Who's taking the snaps before the game from the center? I mean, we have covered so much quarterback absurdity at this school over the years that it's just not healthy. It's the one position, people will say offensive line stability matters more than anything. I think quarterback is the position in all of sports where stability and continuity matters more than anything. And one of these years, Purdue is bound to just start a guy, get 13 games out of him, 12 games, 13 ideally. I don't know how many games are even on Purdue's schedule, so don't quote me on those numbers, but it would be great if for Purdue, if Ryan Brown could be that guy, and then also solidify the position going into next year. I hope he's not a senior. I just misspoke. Because what you don't want to have to go in the portal again next year if you don't have to. I think you're going in the portal every year at every position for the most part. That's just the nature of college football nowadays. But once you have to replace that guy every year, then you have to replace the replacement every year too, and all of a sudden, continuity is out the window. And part of that is just the cost of doing business nowadays in college football. But if you can avoid that, then great. So this kind of goes beyond just this season for Ryan Brown. You'd love, if you're Purdue, to just see him hit the ground running, win you some games, play well enough to be your guy going into next year, keep the job all year. Never have to have the head coach asked on Monday morning in his press conference, hey, how are you going to divide the reps this week in practice? Never have us in the press box looking through our binoculars to see which quarterback is taking snaps from the number 1 center in pregame warmups. It's just not a healthy situation. It's a really hard way to be successful. And if you can circumvent that by Ryan Brown locking it all down, great.
Brown's, I think technically this is his 3rd year, but he's eligibility-wise a sophomore, even though in today's day and age, I'm not sure if any of that even matters. It's weird when
when
we don't even really mention class anymore for guys because
play as long as you
it's
want.
year to year. Yeah, and it's year to year. Like you never know who's going to stick around, who's going to go. We're talking with Brian Neubert. In fact, we've got some basketball to get to with Brian before we wrap up. But first, this word from one of our sponsors. Golden Black Radio is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. At Academy Sports and Outdoors, we carry all the gear you need from the top brands, all at prices you'll love. And now shopping at the Academy is more convenient than ever. We offer free assembly on in-store purchases of most bikes and grills, plus free and easy curbside pickup on academy.com orders. Want to save even more every day? Open and use an Academy Sports and Outdoors credit card to get 5% off future purchases when you're approved. Save time and money at Academy Sports and Outdoors and have fun out there. Welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us. Golden Black Radio Tuesday edition, a game week edition of the show. We're talking with Brian Neubert, goldenblack.com columnist. I'm Derek Schultz. Let's talk basketball because I think all Purdue sports are in your wheelhouse, but certainly basketball is the one that you cover the most. And hoops recruiting visits this weekend. I know you had to give yourself a refresher, but that's always fun when you see basketball recruits at football games. I remember I took my son to the Indiana State game last year, and it was the one time that Purdue won, so that kind of made it fun. But we're leaving. We were walking around at halftime, and he's like, "Dad, who's that?" And it was Daniel Jacobson before he ended up getting hurt because obviously when you're 7'3", 7'4", however big he is, you kind of stick out like that. But who else going to be there this weekend? Taking in, I don't know, maybe they're going to the football game, maybe not, but taking in a campus visit for Matt Painter's program.
Yeah, you got to bear with me here. I might get something wrong here. I'm having a hard time keeping all this stuff straight. It all just keeps coming at me here. So Jacob Weber is definitely coming this weekend. He is the 6'6" shooter who is going to Lalamere. He played high school basketball in Kearney, Nebraska, the epicenter of the sport of basketball, Kearney, Nebraska.
Of course.
If you've ever been there, you know what I'm talking about. I've been to Kearney many times, actually. He's a big-time shooter, a big-time shoot-on-the-move guy, which is a different thing than just being a big-time shooter. It is something that has been a huge part of Purdue's offensive composition over this run of a decade or so, where they've been one of the best offensive programs in college basketball. Weber is very much a game wrecker as a shooter. He's kind of blown up this spring and summer. He's like ranked as a top 30 type of guy right now. I don't anticipate him committing to Purdue anytime soon. I think he's gonna play this out. He's gonna let Kentucky, Kansas, etc., maybe Duke, have every opportunity to recruit him. In the meantime, that scholarship is not going to stay open forever either. So, Purdue is recruiting Brandon Bass Jr., too, from Florida, son of the former NBA player of the same name. See if you can guess Dad's name.
It wasn't Brandon Bass, was it?
Brandon Bass. It was actually Brandon Bass, who is a monster, by the way. That guy's huge.
Yeah. He was younger than me, I think, so that makes me feel really old.
Yes, well, welcome to the club, brother. So Brandon Bass Jr. has an offer that I believe is committable for Purdue, and he may decide before Jacob Weber has a chance to run his course. So between one of those two guys, that would be another spot in this 2026 class. I personally, I'm not sure Purdue needs more guards, but I think they want to have a lot of them. I think they want to make sure they have scorers. Brandon Bass has a lot in common with Antoine West, in my opinion, and they love Antoine West. So I really don't think the need is all that acute for another guard in this class, especially with Luke Ertl having really established himself as a legitimate high-level point guard, not just like a combo guard, not just like a piece, but a legitimate point guard. So you get Omer Meyer after Braden Smith, presumably. And then if you lose Omer Meyer, theoretically, early, Luke Ertl's right there to take the reins. So you've got that all set up. And Omer Meyer and Luke Ertl are guys who can very much play together. The same way Braden Smith and Omer Meyer are guys who can very much play together. So Purdue is really looking to kind of overstock that backcourt. I think the importance of guard play has been really underscored here with their recent success. So Jacob Weber is a guy Purdue wants, who will be on campus this weekend. I am having a hard time remembering when Sinan Huan is coming. I think I'm mispronouncing that. Somebody told me how to pronounce it, and I forgot what they told me. So please bear with me on that one. He is a 7-footer from China, I believe, and very athletic guy. Moves like CGI. He's really fun to watch because he's just this giant Matt Harms looking guy who just moves like a wide receiver. It's
wow.
I think he is more of a defensive guy right away, a shot blocker and rebounder. They'd have to work with him on offense, but he'll be a hard get. It's the SEC's all over him. But I just saw a list today where they ranked the centers in the 2026 class, and 3 of the top 4. Arifan Diani, who I would expect to make an official visit to Purdue, although I'm not sure it's set yet. Ethan Taylor, who had a official visit to Purdue informally scheduled, but has since cut his list to 6 and not included Purdue. And then Sinan Huan was at like number 4. So that's 3 of the top 4 centers in this class who all at one point in time had an official visit to Purdue on the books, which is a testament to the job Purdue has done with big men. It's be hard to get any of those guys because it's everybody in the country wants all of them, and some of them will be very expensive, and Purdue will pay well after you've kind of earned it. That they're not going to do the whole "we're going to give you $1 million just to be here" kind of thing. But Purdue's got a lot of traction with big guys right now. I think the portal is going to factor heavily into this class as well. I think Purdue needs a 4-man. Quinn Costello just visited this past weekend. Cameron Williams visits at the end of September or mid-September, along with Luke Ertl the same weekend. If they get one of those 2 guys, those are 2 top 30 players again. Presumably guys who could step right in and play for you right away based on their rankings and their offers, but also physically they're not quite going to be up to Big Ten standards right away. So you'll want to at least supplement them with somebody in the portal who can be a little bit more physically mature, a little bit readier. The best case scenario probably has Purdue getting Caden Pierce, the transfer from Princeton, who will have a Purdue offer as soon as he's in the portal in October. Purdue will have an opportunity to recruit him. Purdue will have a chance to get him, in my opinion. Be very difficult because UConn's going to be all over him. Duke is going to be all over him. His older brother, when he transferred from William and Mary, went to North Carolina. So the Blue Bloods will line up for him. Purdue can offer him the ability to be one of their better players for a year before going on to whatever comes next. He's the brother of Alec Pierce, who plays for the Colts.
Yeah, that's right.
Noted deep threat, Alec Pierce. Although we'll see who's throwing the ball to him this year. Caden Pierce is from Glenbard, Illinois, in Chicago, so it's relatively close to home for him. That would be your best case scenario, probably, but they're going to keep recruiting the high school kids, Quinn Costello and Cameron Williams, and either of them would be a coup to get. Neither of them will be easy to get. Outside of that, you got Luke Ertl. You got to get some size. You got to get to the portal. And it'll be a pretty eventful fall here. Purdue's normally gone into the fall with other commitments in hand because they've done a great job over the years getting their guys early. This year, the last few years, Purdue's gone more national. They've been a little bit more picky. They've recruited a higher ranked, higher recruited player. And I think that has kind of moved them into falls with some spots to fill. And I think this year, the Final Four is kind of paying off. I think you're seeing Purdue on a lot of lists and getting a lot of visits from some really, really high-level players. just as, just as money gets above board on this too. So just as they get into that strata that really doesn't matter all that much beyond the guys who are Purdue guys, when you get into those higher ranked guys, they get more and more expensive. So it's kind of a good problem to have where you're in on this really exclusive set of talent, but also you're in these very deep waters with these apex predators with very, very deep war chests. Bo Ogden also is a guy I should mention as an absolute priority for them. More of a guard, kind of a wing, a guy who's going to be hard to get away from Texas. Dad's on staff there. If Texas lets him get away, Texas is deserves ridicule because this kid is really, really good. He's the best player, in my opinion, that Purdue is still involved with. That includes Arafan Diani. That includes Quinn Costello. That includes Cameron Williams. Bo Ogden is perfect for Purdue. He's perfect for a lot of places, but he is perfect for Purdue. And I think he realizes it, and that's why, Purdue's right there at the end. If they can get him away from Texas, if anyone can get him away from Texas, I think Purdue's got a great shot at him, and he would be a star at Purdue because Purdue fans would absolutely love that kid.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm trying to put those mints in my mouth for like 5 minutes.
No, that's a comprehensive list, and Purdue's in a good place when they're a player for national players like that, because like you said, it's the last couple of years kind of coming home to roost, right? In a good way, not in an ominous way. You can check out Brian's work, of course, goldenblack.com. Also for subscribers, Boiling Over is a must read every single week. And Brian will be part of our Friday shows coming up here to preview Purdue football games all season long. Thanks so much, my man. And we will talk again soon.
No problem, Derek. Thanks, man.
That's our friend Brian Neubert, and that is our Gold and Black Radio show for today. Thanks to our presenting sponsor, Academy Sports and Outdoors, as well as our fantastic list of local partners like Purdue Federal Credit Union, the official credit card for Purdue fans, East End Grill and Ripple and Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street in Lafayette. The Whitaker Inn for unparalleled comfort and cuisine, and apparently the chicken parm as well. Visit the Whitaker Inn. And Purdue Institute for Cancer Research, which has a history of innovation and one goal for the future: defeat cancer. Join the fight and donate to the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research today. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. And, of course, you can leave a positive review on whatever podcast platform that you are utilizing. Also, if you haven't already, of course, you're going to want to subscribe to goldenblack.com. Like I mentioned, you get Brian Neubert and Bowling Over. You get all this recruiting insight from him, from Tom and Dub on the football side of things. You get Knucklehead Central, where you can commiserate with fellow Purdue fans on the message boards. Lots and lots of fun. Definitely a lot of bang for the buck and worth it to be a subscriber at goldenblack.com. But also a lot of free content as well. Our YouTube channel, if you haven't subscribed there, go ahead and check that out. And the Golden Black Radio for the Saturday simulcast, the Friday show, the Tuesday show, the whole deal. Please like, subscribe if you enjoy this. Apple Podcast, Spotify, enable alerts, whatever podcast platform that you're listening on. We really, really appreciate it. As new shows, new highlights, new videos, new content, keep churning out. Keep the train going down the tracks, if you will. But it's game week. We'll be back with you Friday right here on Golden Black Radio. Thanks so much for tuning us in, and we will talk again in a couple days.